about all things Division 2.
Hello and welcome to the Pixel Scandal Nerdcast, episode 46. This is not the Division 2 podcast. I'm Kurt.
Nightson.
I'm currently opening the Word doc.
Do it! And the Handor. No!
Gigett!
I am clearly after Nightson.
It is out of order and I don't care.
I am
cool.
Oreztes.
Let's do that thing.
Tonight's spotlight topic is going to be on choosing an RPG system. But before we get to that, end of line, do we have any announcements?
We always have announcements.
I know, but I mean, it sounds better when I ask if there are announcements instead of like do
It's
the fucking
a rhetorical
announcements.
question.
Yeah.
This
It's
is
called
the
a segue.
This is the Asian GM that I was thinking about today.
What?
Earlier, when I was telling Kurt that I thought,
Are you talking about?
Yoshi.
This game. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you? I'm so confused. So
No.
The next
on
Dungeon World game.
On that note, take it away, Endo.
Thanks for our next Dungeon World game is going to be Saturday, April 13th at 9 a.m., our normal scheduled time for Dungeon World.
Yay.
Our new Paper Scandal side quest is going to be April 27th, also on Saturday at 9 a.m. And we're going to be playing Dialect, run by our guest GM, Yoshi.
Yeah.
So that's going to be April 13th, 9 a.m. for Dungeon World, and April 27th, 9 a.m. for Dialect, our next side quest.
I read that. I was reading the notes, and it's. I noticed now it's italicized, the dialect part, but I just changed. It's like, and we're going to be playing Dialect Run. I was like, that sounds interesting.
Dialect is actually super cool. It's if you guys aren't familiar with it, it's a story game where you tell you build a language and then tell how it dies. Mm-hmm. So,
Yep.
super cool.
But we have a big announcement, right, Endo?
We do. We are moving our show to a new date and time, starting on April 14th. We're going to be moving the podcast to Sunday afternoons at 1 p.m. We're going to be starting that new schedule on
PST.
April 14th. Yeah, that's 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're
Pixel
trying this
Scandal
out. We're trying this out. We've kind of done some reviews of our shows and our stats and everything, and we decided that we kind of wanted our Saturdays back, and we thought Sunday, not at 8 p.m., which is 11 p.m. on the East Coast, might be a better fit for the show. So as a group, we decided to give this a shot. But if anyone has any issues with that move or kind of bummed that you won't be able to catch the show, just go ahead and shoot us an email at pixelscandal@gmail.com, and let us know.
Yep.
Please
For
let
sure.
us know how you feel. How do you feel?
No.
We decided that we would make this announcement now so that we would have several weeks to kind of, if anybody, does have huge problems with us moving the show or, doesn't hear the announcement one week, but it shows back up the next week that you hear that the show is going to be moving. So this is our first announcement, but we'll be announcing it over the next couple of weeks just to make sure everyone hears that we're moving to Sundays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a surprise.
Sunday.
Yeah, that. So let's move into what we're excited about. Oreztes, why don't you start us off here?
what makes you think I put that on there?
Okay, we both fucking know that it was you. You were talking about it right before we went live.
In fairness,
Yeah.
this may have been put there earlier in the week while he was still excited about it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, to be fair, it's been very disappointing. The Final Fantasy XIV Fan Fest is currently happening right now. And they have announced confirmed dancer, but unfortunately it is not a healer. It is a physical range DPS class, which is stupid, and it throws sharp frisbees like Xena.
Ooh.
Don't.
I kind of
So
like
what you're
that.
saying is you are not excited about it.
No, I wanted it to be another healer.
Maybe you
Because
should
they
have
won't-
dropped that off the list of what you're excited about.
Dude, you act like I open this document more than once every 2 weeks.
I mean, during
Alright.
his announcement of his name, he did say, "Let me open the documents." So,
No, it's gonna because they had already announced Gunbreaker, which is a tank. And then the last expansion was just like, here's a bunch of DPS. So we're like, oh, well, we're going to have a tank and a healer then. It's like, nope, we're going to have a tank and more DPS.
Is that seriously the name Gunbreaker?
I think so, or Gunblade or something. I don't know.
Well, if it's Gunbreaker, I'm not calling it Gunblade. It's just going to be Gunblade, and
yeah, I think the weapon
accept it.
Yeah, I think the weapon is Gunblade, but I mean, it's the same thing as calling the Rogadin the Bastok.
Yeah,
that is what it is.
It's canon, really.
It's a Bastok. Yeah, but they are changing it to where the falafels are going to be called dwarfs. I hear, and the Elizins are going to be called elves.
It makes no sense.
I don't know what bears think.
They're just bored.
Well, I think it's reached the shark jumping level.
I'm still gonna play it. I'm still having that time off work, and I'm still gonna level Scholar first.
Yeah,
All right, what's next?
All right, well, Kurt, you are up.
Hashtag bird secrets.
Yep.
That's it. Thanks. All right, next.
So
Quick sell.
yeah, it's elevator pitch. So let me tell you what hashtag bird secrets is. So over the last I don't know, several months, I've been slowly putting out weird ass tweets on Twitter with the hashtag bird secrets, where I just find pictures of guilty looking birds and then ask them what they've done.
If you haven't been following, it's actually been pretty funny.
And a lot
Do
of the
I know
people,
you?
A lot of the people that are interested in my bird secrets are also in a community where someone went ahead and created a game jam on itch.io, which is like a game marketplace. And they've had a bigger push for tabletop games lately. And so someone started a game jam where everyone makes a game and submits it within a time frame. And it was the short and easy game jam because they wanted games that they could play within 2 hours. So the game had to be played within 2 hours. So I went ahead and signed up and decided I was going to make hashtag bird secrets. And I asked Twitter if hashtag bird secrets was a game about birds who have secrets or birds who uncover secrets. And everyone said both. And so it became a murder investigation game. With some clue-style deduction and some PBTA-style storytelling stuff, where you don't know who the murderer is because everyone creates a bunch of bird names. You choose your character name from those bird names. You put them all in a hat, and you move one to the side as the murderer. And then through the power of deduction and using the moves, you have to figure out who done it.
Yep.
Johnny Sparrow killed him with the revolver in the study.
Yes. There are also and so the characters, learn secrets, and secrets are the currency that you spend. Like all of the moves are roll plus secrets, and then it's all about gaining and trading secrets and stuff. So
No matter what, I'm always the crow.
yeah, and it is. What's up?
I'm always the crow.
I'm not interested in playing this unless you convert it into a murder mystery dinner.
I could probably figure that out. I'll play birds. But yeah, so I put it up. I put it up on itch. It is live. It is $5. You can go and pay money for it if you want.
Well, if someone plays a
think it's
seagull, we all know that the seagull will just die from eating, like somebody fed him Alka-Seltzer. So
Or a pigeon. I'm gonna be an albatross.
Kurt has read the entire rules to me twice now, and it sounds like a very fun game. I have yet to play it, but it does sound very fun.
I found all of the best royalty-free bird art I could.
Mm-hmm. And all the bird puns.
All the bird puns. There are many bird puns.
Let's kickstart that bitch and throw Pixel Scandal on it.
You don't have to kickstart it because it's live now. You can just go pay me money for it.
Yep, you can just go buy it.
Yeah, if you
have
want it, you can go have
it.
it. Go to kurtpotts.itch.io/bird secrets.
You could
I'm not
kickstart
buying
the
it.
special bird edition that comes with a bird.
Oh, it'll be delivered to your house
It's a
via
canary.
delivery pigeon.
And then you have to figure out how that bird died. No, that's
I will say this: if it makes money, like if people actually want this game and people are buying it, then I will put out little supplements for it. So
Well, awesome.
cool.
Well, the
yeah,
last
that is pretty cool. I
the
actually like
last thing on the what we're excited about, I put this in here, is the Supernatural announcement that happened yesterday, which is that the
Is it finally
15th
over?
the 15th season will be their final season.
Oh wow!
They are finally done. So
who's the villain in this past season? Because the last time I saw it, they were each splitting up. One was gonna go face off with God, and the other one was gonna go fight the devil. And I was just like, where do you go from here?
I think they're going to fight the Earth. Just the whole season is
Oh.
them
The
just
whole
punching,
Earth.
punching down.
just
Punching the
punching
ground.
down.
Punching
Yeah.
the ground until it explodes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I saw that announcement yesterday and was like super excited because Kurt and I have not kept up with it while it's been on. But we've been trying to watch it on Netflix and actually get through it. And it seems insurmountable. But now that there is going to be an ending, it means that I
It's
can actually
possible.
reach
It
it.
seems like you can see a finish line.
Yeah, there's a reachable goal to actually watching. Like, now there's a purpose to finish it instead of like, pah, they'll be on for 20 years. Now it's like, okay, now there's.
By the
Honestly,
way,
that is.
to
Oh, go ahead.
to Oreztes' question, I believe there's not really a main bad guy right now because the red. So what's this?
No spoilers.
No
guy-
spoilers. We're like halfway through.
We're like 5
Yeah,
seasons
yeah,
back,
it was.
man.
Yeah. I will say.
Don't do it.
I'm just gonna keep moving.
I'm sorry,
I'm
Handor.
gonna say that it's really nice though because usually in very long standing shows, they just go until they die. So
Right.
the fact that they can actually have a final season,
Yeah.
is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm just
Like,
waiting
they'll-
for the movie.
They'll actually be able to wrap up the story and find a good place to end it instead of leaving it like, they didn't pick us back up next year because our ratings dropped, like, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it can feel like a complete story, which is great.
Speaking of movies, did you see that they're making a Deadwood movie?
Yeah,
No.
Yeah.
Cool.
they showed it on. We watched something on HBO the other night, and it came up, and Larry liked Deadwood a lot.
Nice.
I went and watched Captain Marvel with my brother the other few days ago.
How'd you like it?
It's really good. It's actually really good.
Nice.
We need
I
to
like
see
it.
this.
I like exactly how they did it. I like the way they did it.
Nice. I think
Brie-
Kurt
and
and I
Brie-
may be the only ones who haven't seen it on the cast.
Yeah,
Brie Larson did a really good job, and she is super gorgeous.
I want to go see
Way
Shazam.
to be consistent.
I want to go
actually-
see Shazam too. It
Shazam
actually looks like it might be
looks
good.
like it looks like a good DC movie, which is rare.
It might be the first DC movie that's not.
Well, it's because they're starting from the jump of
Yeah.
let's just be ridiculous and have some fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
besides
let's
Wonder
move.
Woman and Aquaman, which I liked Wonder Woman. I haven't seen Aquaman, but apparently it's really good too.
Thank-
I heard
thank-
Aquaman-
Aquaman tanked. What was it that I heard?
Wait, did you say Aquaman tanked?
I did. Dang.
Thanks.
I don't get it.
Yeah. So I heard. I was listening to a podcast, and they said that.
You listen to other podcasts besides ours? How dare
I'm
you?
like 90% sure it was on Joe Rogan.
Anyways, they were saying to watch a movie that wasn't doing very well in the ratings, but it was actually a really good movie, and everyone should go see it. I feel like I need to remember what that is now.
It was called Us.
I don't think so.
Okay, so let's move into what we've played recently, and you're logged in as me again.
Who cares at this point?
Today we played Forest Hymn and Picnic, run by Cecil Howell. How did you guys feel about the game today?
Well, now that he's not here, I can say that it was horrible.
You're a
There was
liar.
ham, but there was no picnic. That's what I would say.
We did not do a picnic. I had a great time. I really,
had an
really, really
amazing
like that
time.
game.
I can't believe you guys ate the ham. That's disgusting.
I actually didn't eat the ham because I'm a ghost, or I was a ghost,
There-
and ghosts can't eat.
That is true.
Because pigs are human, like pigs are living sentient beings, and you're eating a ham sandwich. That's wrong.
I like how the human is the one. The person who's playing the person was the vegetarian.
Yeah, the badger was fine with eating a pig person, but
Aren't
the
badgers
human,
carnivores?
Yeah,
believe so.
very much so.
Why wouldn't it want to eat a pig person?
You mean badgers don't just eat honey? I thought that's how that. I
think that's a different thing.
Badgers are pretty ferocious little fuckers.
little
fuckers.
fuckers.
Well, I have to say,
And I don't
if-
mean that they're fucking as ferocious. I mean, they're, you know what I mean.
It might be.
Thank you for the clarification.
Our
And by-
ferocious little fuckers. They're like,
And now that's on the internet.
so
Yep.
furious.
Yep.
Someone delete Animal Planet off of his television list.
Oh my god.
No more Planet Earth for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. But okay, so 4-7 Picnic. I mean, if you're a fan of the show, you probably know about it because I talked about it
Lots.
constantly. But
For
yeah,
like 6 months, I
It's-
think you talked about it.
it is as fun as I thought it would be to play.
It was so much fun. I was
Yeah.
very excited to get to play it, and I'm very glad I got to play it because it was exactly as fun as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's being a ghost filled with candy, and a sack face with daggers in it, stabbed with daggers, was really fun.
Do you get to just
You roll
make
it.
this up?
It's all rolled. It's tables.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was all random.
Wow.
It's all random, and so like that's what I got. I was kind of hoping I would be a ghost filled with bees because that's one of the options.
Yeah.
Your filling can be bees, and then I was like, "Oh, Nightson will be so excited." But you can pick, like, if you're playing like a long form campaign, you can just pick it.
Yeah.
And be like, no, I'm a ghost filled with bees.
It was nice doing the random though, because you guys
Yeah,
could make
the
it work.
random was fun.
It's really funny.
I
I'm gonna-
ended up being like an old crotchety crane that
Snooty.
snooty and very just wonderful. It was so great. It was
You mean like a hoisting mechanical crane, or like one of those ones that they do this?
like a long neck crane. Yeah,
She's
like
a storm.
like a bird.
Yep. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
We'll have our we did a little recap with Cecil, and that'll be up on our Patreon tomorrow if you're a patron, if you want to.
Totes.
I will.
Oh, sorry, Nightson. I just volunteered that for tomorrow.
Did you see the
I
face
hope
he
you've got
made? He was like,
time.
"I'm doing that tomorrow."
You
can
gotta
tell
love when
who's-
people volunteer.
You can tell whose jobs are what when someone makes a declaration that's not theirs and they make a face like, "What the
That'll be up
fuck?
tomorrow, I'm sure.
What are you?"
Otherwise, you can email
volunteering
nightsson@pixelscandal.com and be like, what is it?
Well, awesome.
I'll probably watch that tonight when I fall asleep.
It- It was real good.
Cool.
I
I was playing a human with PTSD who was hallucinating the entire thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It was good times. All right, y'all. So you've been playing Division 2 this week, and I know that because Discord has been blowing up.
Yeah, I keep having to jump in and
I
ask, like, do
finally
I need to
muted
care
the-
what's in this chat?
You guys made, thankfully, like a Division 2 specific channel in Discord, and I went in and muted it, so I don't have to listen to it anymore.
Yeah, I was catching the subtle hints from Kurt. And I was like, let's make another channel
I was
here.
like, oh my
Yeah,
god.
I also had to go mute that
I
channel.
can't do any more Division 2 talk. Anyway, but it sounds like you guys are having a great time.
It's amazing. The game is super flushed out with the occasional, when you take over a what are they called?
Your mom.
Control
Oh.
point?
Yeah, when
You
your
take
mom-
over you take over a control point, and you rally the civilians to come, take it over for you so you can leave, and then they just show up and I'll just stand and face the wall and never actually take over the control point, so you can never leave, so you can never fucking loot the motherfucking cash at the
You know what
end.
the best part is? When you call in the reinforcements and then they spawn like 300 blocks away.
Yeah, meters away.
And then,
then they get in a
start
fight.
pulling like just random patrols.
Oh god.
So they're
It's
you're-
nice to know that I get to play, even though Kurt's not playing. It feels like he is.
I didn't do shit.
There are no minecarts in that game.
I didn't click nothing. All I did this week was write a game about bird secrets.
That's not true.
But other than that, the game's amazing. I'm having a blast. I heard today through the grapevine, you guys are all gonna know who, that there are some people that are a little frustrated with the game, but that's fine. It can be a little frustrating. It gets difficult at times because you get your ass whooped. But I'm excited for that, and
That person you talk to is the person that gets the most frustrated about getting killed of all of us.
no, I know. And the thing is I told that person too that he was not allowed to join us because I didn't want any of the shit that was going on in the channel above to go on in our channel, so he was not allowed in our channel. And then I realized, oh yeah, he's gonna be so overpowered that he'll never die, and he's gonna one-shot everything.
That is not a thing.
No, it
It's not a
was.
thing.
It totally
Pretty
was.
close. It's pretty close.
Dude,
to
he's
the
Well, I
finish.
mean, once you guys get to the game is
He's been
incredible.
celebrating the whole time.
The game is absolutely incredible. It is leaps and bounds better than Division 1. It's fixed a lot of the things that when we first played Division 1, we had an enormous amount of complaints about it. They fixed a lot of it. But I've really had no complaints about it until yesterday and today. I'm starting to kind of see the paint wear a little bit in some spaces. But by no means does it diminish the fact that it is an incredible game. I'm just starting to see some aspects that definitely need some polish, especially when it comes to the end game. The gear scaling is too fast. Once you hit 450 gear, you're just grinding the same shit over and over and over again forever. I really wish it had slowed down. I wish they had paced it and staged it to where you had like a few days to a week to get to that point as you were leveling. I felt like once we got to World Tier 4, we were in 450 eye level gear, and then it was just basically farming talents and that stuff. And there's really not a terrible amount of incentive to do real challenge modes and things like that. I feel like they really missed the boat there. There should be incentive and something to incentivize you to do the really hard content. And there really isn't right now.
I think the only reason that there's no incentive right now is because we know that the next world tier is going to be the end world tier, and it's coming in just a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So it's like, why should I, waste all this time farming, doing the same thing over and over for a set of gear that's just going to be obsolete in like 2 or 3 weeks?
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Let's get to our spotlight topic, though.
We're so sorry that we had to put you guys through that curtain, Gigett, but
What? I'm here.
I'm fine. I don't mind listening to you guys talk about Division 2.
You guys listen to me talk about bird secrets
You know
for
what
like
it
10
is?
minutes.
It's
the
on
whole 4.5 minutes of Division 2 that we did.
No. I don't mind listening to you guys actually talk about Division 2. It's when I'm sitting in my office or with clients and my phone is going bloop, 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 bloop all freaking day because you guys are talking about it. That's very different than listening to you guys actually discuss Division 2.
You could just turn that off, right?
But if you forget and you're in the middle of something... It's really hard to be like, sorry, let me go. So,
I turned on notifications for Discord on my phone one day weeks ago. And that was the day all you assholes just decided to start having page upon page upon page of bullshit. And my phone almost, rocked off the desk.
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
My phone actually has a small phone-shaped divot from all the vibration. It nestled into my oak table.
Well, on that note, let's move into our spotlight topic for tonight, which is on... what?
I was going to say, let's move into that.
Let's move into that, guys. On choosing an RPG system or helping Handor pick a system.
Yeah.
So let's
finding a system for Handor.
For Handor and his IRL friends.
Mm-hmm.
So take it away, Curtin Nightson.
Sure. I think what we're going to do is probably talk about like the ways that you might narrow it down and then do an actual example and try to actually help Handor leave this podcast with a system.
Yeah.
So
why
some
are you
of the
trying to get
advice might be
Handor to
more
leave the
specific,
podcast?
No.
If you have to ask.
Yeah. But one of the big things that I found when we first started talking about this several months ago, I think it's just been in our queue for a while, is there's a thing called the same page tool, which is, I forget the author's name. Hang on, I have their blog open. What is
while you're
name?
searching?
Go ahead.
Basically, it is a tool for making sure the GM and the players are all on the same page for genre, for tropes, for how you kind of want a game to be run. There's others like it. This is one we found, and it's pretty decent. But you'll find that any time you get a group together for a game, other than hey guys, I have an idea, let's play it. Mm-hmm. These are the kind of questions you want to be asking to try to make sure that everyone knows what they're getting into, or even can influence the direction of what they're getting into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the author of this article is Christopher Chin, and their website is it's Bankui. I'll link it. But yeah, you're gonna want to. You can find it if you search same page tool. But it gives you. I'm sorry, Nightson. Go ahead.
No, that's basically it. If you weren't paying attention, I can't be held responsible for it.
I feel like that's the quote for all of our podcasts.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah, I mean, it does a really good job of getting everyone on the same page. That's it. It calls into question all of your assumptions about gaming and how games actually function. There were a lot of questions in there when I read it that I didn't even realize that was a question. Like, why would you assume? Like, the first question of it is, where's the thing? Oh my God, shoot. Do you play to win? And then it's, yes, you totally play to win, or good play isn't a win-lose kind of thing. And I didn't even realize that there were people that played to win. I always saw that as like, oh, that's a bad thing that people shouldn't do. But I guess if you've got 3 people at your table that play to win, you might want to know before you sit down and pick a game.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, though, a lot of us, we've been playing tabletop games for the better part of a decade now.
Oh, yeah.
And we still can't agree on everything, or even anything, really, as a whole.
Yeah.
And so when you sit down and say, I'm going to play a game, it does need to be some sort of discussion to make sure everyone understands what game you mean.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times when you're in an established group or you've been playing for a long time, you come to the group and you pitch the game. Like, you say, this is the game I want to play. This is what it does. And here's why I think we should play it. But the problem is, if you're new to RPGs, like, where to start can be daunting, right? Because maybe you don't even know why you would want to play a specific game. Mm-hmm. And so some of the questions here actually do a pretty good job of pointing you in the right direction. But I'm curious from Handor, because you mentioned that you had some trouble getting the answers to these questions. So, like, if you bring this tool to someone who's never played an RPG before, what were some of the struggles that you guys went through trying to answer these questions?
So it was a lot of. I've got one friend who, he doesn't want to RP at all. He doesn't even want to, like, speak. He just wants his character to be played out through, dice.
Interpretive dance?
Yeah. You just have to expect that his character is going to do whatever it would do based on his alignment and dice roll, So role playing for him is, like, almost out of the question. It's just going to be him being him, saying what, there's no role play. So,
which is
and then
definitely
on the other side,
a kind of player. Like, that is a type of player.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side of my table, I have someone who is like, loves the story, loves the, wants to role play hardcore, and he wants to envelop that character so much that, he wants to make sure that if he ends up doing something bad and certain things trend a certain way, that he role plays that. Right now, he's doing these things and succumbing to the what do you call it? The things that are going to naturally take place because of your choices, right?
Your consequences.
So, consequences, right? The consequences of his actions. And they're both like, and I'm like, can we just, like, come, like, the middle? And they're like, the middle's kind of boring. So there's, places where I had to choose A and B, and just see what you guys had to say about it. I'll be like, well, I'll pitch it to them. I can't do anything with it. With you guys.
That is a common problem within gaming groups. You have friends that enjoy different aspects of games. And so trying to, like, how do we mesh all the little things that everybody enjoys and the things that people don't enjoy, like, make sure that those aren't touched on too often. How do you balance all that? And that can be hard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I definitely like. So one of the questions here is the GM's role is, and then there's a bunch of multiple choice, and the two answers that you picked are the GM preps a set of events, linear or branching. Players run their characters through these events. The GM hints to provide direction. Basically, that's your like railroady GM, linear story, typical D&D type module stuff. And then the other one in the same question is, there's no GM, everyone works together to make the story through freeform. And I'm like, what? How am I supposed to help you, man?
I feel like maybe these two people don't want to play a game together.
Right? It's just, I think your
Throwing
solution
darts at the wall.
for this group might be, like, make two groups and have, like, the one player play with one group and the other player play with a different group. Because the person who doesn't want to role play is not going to have a good time with the other person who really wants to have like meaningful RP experiences. Yeah, so that's tough.
Well, not necessarily. Like there is a subset of players who's just happy to participate. They don't want to talk. They don't want to. They'll roll a die when you tell them to. But they may even look like they're miserable. You ask them, they're having the time of their life.
Yeah.
I think he's talking from experience.
Is this you, Gordon? I mean, Nightson?
He's unwilling to answer, so I'm gonna go with yes on that.
But so what? Let's try to actually talk about some of the ways that you can narrow down a system that you might want to play.
Okay.
So some of the sliders that you're gonna want to look for are how complicated you want the rules to be versus how simplified you want the rules to be. Whether you want your game to be sort of objective based or more freeform storytelling. Both your players disagree on that one, so that's gonna be tough. And then, like, what genres you want to emulate, right? What fandoms you think are interesting, what types of stories you want to tell. So, narrowing those down is going to be useful.
I can tell you right now the things that they would love and hate, right? So, I can tell you from a GM's perspective, or not from a GM's perspective, but as a person who is going to be trying to GM for the first time, me, I would like, obviously, something that's easy to grasp, something that's easy to get a hold of quickly, and something that will flow well, for somebody that's new to taking on such a daunting task.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Question 2 is the genre. I would say one of my friends is really the one on the one side really enjoys like pirates, the sea, stuff like that, right? Steampunk, whatever. And then the other one is really into fantasy, specifically vampires, witches, the more
Vampire pirates.
Whatever. But so you got the, I don't know what you call the vampire genre, but
Supernatural.
you got the supernatural genre, and then like the piratey, steampunky,
more historical
type. Exactly. So I'm sure that would probably be easy to blend.
Well, the nice thing about that is you have a flavor and a theme in that. One is a flavor, one is a theme. You can literally just layer them on top of each other and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could just run a fantasy game where the characters are on a ship. Like, they're either pirates, or they're dealing with pirates, or they're traveling the seas.
Or Pirates of the Spanish Main, which is a setting in Savage Worlds, which has supernatural stuff mixed in with being pirates.
Yeah. So now we've got a genre, right? We've got some like themes down. We know that we need some fantasy elements. When you said like vampires and witches, I want to make sure that it wasn't specifically referring to Vampire the Masquerade, because that's a very different type of game than like a fantasy game with vampires in it.
So you remember one of the people?
It was Vampire the Masquerade.
It was Vampire. Okay.
Yeah.
So one person is looking for a very serious sort of political game, and the other person wants to do more of like objective based roll some dice. Yeah.
Swashbuckling.
Yes. And
Okay.
and so that's where we're at. And but the way I explained it to him was I said, look, we're gonna have to compromise here. This is gonna be our first game. We cannot go into a traditional game, read 7 books, and expect that it's gonna go well. So what I said is let's compromise. Let's just throw out there and get what we can. And then I said, you know what? Let's talk to the cast. And so here we are. Hoping to find something. Everyone's willing to just kind of play out the first RPG so that they can fully fledged, say they've played a campaign, because none of them have done that. And I hadn't done that even until recently.
I have to ask this question: Has your team played any tabletop, like RPG tabletop, pen and paper?
No.
So, generally speaking, back in the day, your options were pretty limited about what systems you'd have to play, and there would, of course, be some amount of learning of a rule system that you'd have to do as a GM, and then you'd have to guide your players through. You're not really forced to make that decision anymore. There are games like Force Him and Picnic we played this morning where it's super rules light. You get to RP, there is still combat, there is still a system in. There's enough of a system there to make you feel like you're actively doing things besides just story stuff. But and I'm not saying Force Him and Picnic is it, but I'm just saying there's a lot of games like that
Right.
that are very rules light
that's...
to get you into it, and then you guys can decide from there. Do we feel like our group is much more combat oriented and we want to do a lot of action? Okay, great. Dungeons and Dragons, Shadowrun, the world is your oyster. We really like the story game aspect. Great. There's a ton of systems for that too. But I think you should start with something very rules light that's not stressful for you as a GM, not stressful for your players either, and they can just kind of get the experience and figure out what pieces they like best. And then kind of go from there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to recommend, I would recommend that you, before trying to like jump into a full on like several session campaign and locking yourself into a system, try to do a few one shots
with pre-mates.
So do some
cut character gen out of the equation.
Do a system that's gonna be really good for the player who doesn't want to role play, right? Do something that's that's all about like delving and traps, and it's like there's nobody to talk to. It's just like the players versus the dungeon kind of game, right? Like do a D&D dungeon crawl. Then Sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, there's also archetypes of classes in games that are a little less, as we typically call them in our team, the face. There are certain classes and subclasses of tabletop games that are a little bit less in the RP side. Like if you're playing the Brute Barbarian, you can get away with very light RP as a barbarian. Oof, I smash things. But if you're playing a bard or the diplomacy character of the game, that's a tough sell. I would really pressure that person into not playing that kind of role in the team.
Right.
Well, first give them a chance to play the thing they think they're interested in. See if they actually like it.
Yeah, learn that it's not actually the thing they want to play before you tell them not to play it.
So try like it doesn't have to be 5th edition D&D. It can be any fantasy game, right? And try that like dungeon crawl style. Pick up a module so it's the other thing to be careful of is you don't want to pick a game that's super heavy on the GM if you haven't run a lot of games. Like a lot of story games lean heavily on the GM to sort of like build the work, like to drive the story and make sure things are working, or they push all of that onto the players and sort of distribute it. But it's the system isn't helping you as much as say. D&D is there's enough there where if you didn't know what to do, the game will tell you. That doesn't always happen in some story games, right?
Not to mention, there is a module for every flavor you could ever imagine.
Right. So, like, pick a version of D&D, get an old module, or get a module like one of the classic dungeon crawls, make some simple characters, and just go through the module. That's for your player who doesn't want to role play, right? Just do the module, put the traps in their way, let them use the game to beat the game, right? Then grab something a little more story focused. Try to find something that's a little more political or is going to work with the supernatural aspects of things. Run that game so they can each. So then now they have a frame of reference. Like, hey, this is the kind of thing I said I wanted. It did or didn't do the thing I thought it was going to do. And then they can say, here are the things that I liked and disliked about the other person's style of play. And then you can take the things they liked from each side and try to combine them and find something that'll work in the middle.
I just had a phenomenal idea. I just realized earlier you had commented about there being a I can't remember what it was called.
Who you pointing at?
Huh?
Who you pointing at?
Oh, I just had my hand out. I think you mentioned it, Gigett. It was with Pirates, the Open Sea, but there was also the spiritual
Pirates of the Spanish Main.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. So I just had an idea. What if I did this thing, right, where the first game was dungeony. It was very dungeony. It was, like you said, D&D, like just a module, just what do you call it? Like just a
yeah, it's a module.
So
a pre-written,
I get a module,
like pre-written. Yeah. This is where you start. These are the traps. These are the puzzles. This is the ending. Pre-written. It's a module.
Right.
Yeah.
So I get that, right? And what happens is I take that and make it so that the dungeon is the ship, so that when they defeat the ship, essentially, the next game that we play, we kind of just roll into a campaign of, a more story-driven, they're on a ship, right? This is the ship from before, and it just, it connects. As opposed to being like,
Well, one of the wonderful things about you guys...
I don't know what that was.
No, one of the wonderful things about, like, your players all being completely new to role-playing games is that all of the, like, typical role-playing game tropes are new to them, and so it's not going to feel like, there's a pit trap, there's a, there's a mimic chest, like, all the things that feel very, like, gimmicky or... like, okay, yeah, we're doing that for the 90th time or whatever. It's going to feel new to them. And so if, I agree with what Kurt's saying. If you run a bunch of one-shots, you can start to figure out, like, oh, this is where we fit as a group, or this is the way I like to GM, and so this is the kind of game I can run. I think for us, it's always helped to go to cons because we get to play a bunch of different systems and then decide, like, oh, of all these systems I've played, I like this one, which... When you're taking on the responsibility to be the only GM and you're going to run a bunch of systems, it's like, wait a minute, I got to learn all these systems to run them to see which one we like. Like, I totally get that. But my suggestion would be to kind of do a marriage of the two things. Like, you're wanting to turn this into a campaign. You're wanting to do, like, a long-running thing and get everyone, like, invested. I can see that from, like, you've said it several times about a campaign. And so... Oftentimes, having games like episode 2 might be a dungeon crawl, but episode 3 might be a political game because you're in a town and you have to negotiate with the people. And then episode 3 might be we're going to camp out in the forest because we're traveling from A to B and we're going to get attacked by monsters. And you can incorporate a lot of different play styles into one campaign by making each session focus on a different kind of element that people enjoy in a role-playing game.
Okay. So what
if you're not wanting to learn a bunch of systems and you just want to, like,
for sure,
you know what I mean?
My thing is what I would request of you guys is, like, you've obviously pointed me in and narrowed down, what it is that I should do, what I should look for. And certainly that's helping a lot. But what I would suggest is, because you guys know so many of the modules and so on and so forth. What I would say is, and even for the channel, something that we could do is actually, I'm thinking ahead of myself. So what I would suggest is, why don't you guys come together with like a package of something that I should get or order or whatever, learn and run, and then you guys can display that as, hey, this is what Handor used. Try that. You know what I'm saying? So that I have something physical, so that I'm not like just going, oh, he said get a module, and then I'm at the candy store going, fucking what?
Where am I supposed to start? Yeah, I totally get that.
So I understand like how daunting it can be to look at the vast amount of games that are out there and material that's out there for these games, but I don't want to steal that research from you, which is the nice way of saying stop being a lazy sack of shit and do some research. Handor.
So here's what my suggestion would be. I mean,
that helps me.
Everyone that has listened to this knows what system I'm personally talking about, but my suggestion would. Absolutely. Everyone knows that's my system. I'm Pathfinder Society all the way. No. Find what Kurt calls it, and I'm sure that's what everyone calls it, but I don't like the word. A rules agnostic system, or whatever, however Kurt says it. A system where you can play any kind of game in that rule set. So D&D is made for fantasy games, right? And Shadowrun is for cyberpunk games, but there are systems out there where here's a rule system, put any genre you want on these rules, and then run your game. And that's the kind of game you need to run, so that it's the same rule system that you guys are going to learn to do, and you guys may do pirates for the next 6 months and then decide we don't want to do pirates anymore, we want to do steampunk, and we're going to use the same rules that we already learned, but we're going to do a different story with a new genre. Or maybe we did steampunk for a little while, but we want to do fantasy, but we don't want to learn new rules. We're going to use our same rules, and we're going to play fantasy now. And I think for a new group, being able to consistently play the same rule system, and then eventually branching out to other stuff when you've gotten comfortable with your one system, is a better way than trying to learn a bunch of different systems as a new group and a new GM.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't have people in your group that are like seasoned gamers. I started with people that already knew systems. And so when they were like, let's play this system, it's like, all right, well, you're going to hold my hand while we play this, right? Because I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. But if I were to play with a brand new group and I didn't know what I was doing, I would want us all to be like, okay, we're going to learn this one thing together. And then later in the much future, we'll learn something else. But that's just my opinion.
So you could definitely go the generic system route if you wanted to. If you want to do that, there is GURPS. If you want like really deadly simulationist game, there's Savage Worlds. If you want a pulpy sort of like two-fisted Indiana Jones style game, and I'm trying to think of other generic systems. What else is
generic systems?
Well, not. PBTA has a flavor of everything, which is you learn one set of rules and then it's add 5 rules and then you've learned another PBTA game.
Yeah, I mean, Dungeon World is a PBTA game, which means you already kind of know that style of game. So if that's something you want to explore, PBTA does a really good job of genre emulation. So if you say, I really want to do a game where we are fantasy, I want to be hunting fantasy monsters and it's a different monster every week, bam, you got a game for that. If you want to, but you want like a similar game where it's still modern fantasy, but instead of hunting fantasy monsters, you are the fantasy monsters trying to deal with the politics of being fantasy monsters. There's a one like that too.
Mm-hmm. There's a one like that.
So that's a way to do it too. But that's going to end up being a little more focused on telling an interesting story and a little less focused on completing objectives, which may not be where your other player is most interested. Like for your vampire player, if you're already familiar with PBTA, I would suggest checking out Urban Shadows, which is going to do like faction and politic based modern fantasy or urban fantasy really well. For your like overcoming objectives player, you may want to try Monster of the Week if you want to do a PBTA game. Like it's gonna give them a taste of, here's a game about telling an interesting story, but the trappings are how do we find out how to kill and eventually kill the monster, right? It's more Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Supernatural than it is Dresden Files, right?
Yeah.
Oh, there literally is a Dresden character.
Yes. Well, Monster of the Week is the way I run Dresden. It's Monster of the Week, but you could also run it as the political game. Dresden has both flavors.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for something that's less concerned with who you are and more concerned with what you can do, then dig into the OSR scene, because there's a whole culture of play there that is about exploration and overcoming objectives and like solving puzzles, not necessarily puzzles, but solving the dungeon with the limited resources that you have at your disposal, and being like a clever player that might appeal more to your player who doesn't want to role play. And so it might be interesting to give them both options.
What the hell is OSR?
So OSR is Old School Renaissance. I don't know that we've actually played any OSR games in our group. I mean, technically, anybody who's played First Edition D&D or anything prior,
I played them 20 years ago.
Yeah, so those are OSR games now, right? They're taking those rules and they're remaking them to be with like doing some interesting things with them. So there's a game called Troika, which I'm really interested in, that I picked up. There's a free copy of the rules. You can download the no art version for free. It's like a 60-page PDF, so it's not even like a huge Pathfinder-sized book. And I think that would be a really cool way to kind of dip your toe into that OSR scene. There's also, if you don't want to do fantasy, but you want to do something a little more futuristic, there's Stars Without Number, which is has D&D combat resolution, but traveler skill resolution. So it's 2d6 plus stat plus skill for skill-based stuff, and then it's d20 plus modifier for combat. And it's a star, what am I trying to say? Sci-fi setting, where you're like in a spaceship flying around. You could be fighting stuff, or you could be doing other things, but it's pretty deadly, right? So it's definitely one of those where, how do I overcome the game without, expending my limited resources, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So there are some games that do their genre really well and their style of play.
There's also something to be said about running a game you're interested in rather than trying to make your players happy. Because for you're trying to figure out how to write a game for these two guys, right? That's going to make them both happy. But oftentimes, if you run a game for other people for their wants, you end up getting bored with what you're doing or get disinterested or whatever way before they do, because you're not running the game for your fun, you're running it for their fun.
Yeah.
And so even within our group, we've run games that maybe not everyone loved, but we were having a fun time running it, and most of the group enjoyed it, and that was more important than trying to make everyone happy. And so, keep that in mind too. What does Handor want to play and run? What genres do you enjoy? Not just what do your players want, but for you too. You should be enjoying what you're writing and what you're playing.
Yeah. My thing is I've instantly fallen in love with, and maybe it's because that's what Kurt introduced me to, but I've always had a very outrageous imagination. When I was a very young kid, teachers and friends used to call me MacGyver and all that stuff, and I've always had this massive imagination. My brothers are much older than I am, so when I went outside to play, I would figure out what to do myself. And because of that, I think that lends well to the story game bullshit.
Yeah.
And I really do love it. And I know a lot of you guys don't care. Some of you guys here don't care for it, but it's just so, for me, especially when you're, like I've told you guys so many times, when I first started playing Dungeon World, I caught myself on so many occasions not realizing that I'm a player in this game. I am viewing this from the outside, and I go, "Oh shit, it's my turn."
You just got completely like into what was happening and lost yourself in it.
It's that moment when you're watching a movie and your significant other leans over to you and like nudges you because you're sitting there like this, not realize that you have everything tuned out and you're just zoned.
Right.
So I really enjoy the story game. I don't know what it would take for me to write something like that. I can't imagine it would be too difficult because I've always been pretty capable of.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, what I was going to say there is Monster of the Week has one of the best adventure design sections. Like the portion of the book that teaches you how to write Monster of the Week adventures or like plan out the session is one of the best of all the PBTA games I've read so far. It does a better job of teaching you how to run PBTA, I feel, than a lot of the other PBTA games that I've played or run.
I've heard you say that before.
Yeah, and like just the way that it lays out adventures and the way that it uses fronts, which is PBTA's version of like building out threats and things that are gonna affect the players over time, is really solid. And so honestly, I would recommend you pick up Monster of the Week and check it out because it's going to give you that objective-based play that your other player might like. It's going to give you the story game system that's going to help drive interesting story. And I feel like there's enough there in the modern fantasy that like your player that likes vampire can just be a vampire, right? Because I mean there are I don't remember if there's specifically a vampire class, but there are playbook, but there's definitely like demons and stuff that you could borrow from and figure out a vampire.
Mrs. Oreztes played one.
Yeah.
You kind of touched on this earlier when you said using the dungeon and just saying it's a ship. One of the best tools in your arsenal is to throw a slab of paint on top of something and reuse it. And that goes for anything. If a dungeon, a group of monsters, you're like, man, these have just the abilities I want, but they're goblins and they're fighting trolls right now. Well, they're trolls now. Just deal with it.
Just say they're trolls. Make them bigger.
Well, that's one of the things I do with Savage Worlds all the time, where unless the thing you're fighting is like a specific bad guy, it's a D6 monster. Like its stats are all D6s. All of its numbers are D6s. I could go in the back of the book and find exactly what this tiger is supposed to be or this goblin or whatever. But like if I just want you guys to go up against a bunch of stuff and they're supposed to be kind of easy to kill, they're D6 monsters. But if there's one big bad guy, all right, I'm going to write out his stats and he's going to be a wild card and like I'm going to put the energy into it. But, or even in the back of the Savage Worlds book, there'll be like a tiger, but I needed a werelion. And it's like, well, this tiger's a werelion now. Like that, it's just reskin things to fit whatever it is that you're doing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My recommendation, obviously, is Savage Worlds. I love Savage Worlds. It was the first system I ran. It's not the first system I played, but it's the first system I ran. I went to a con and played in a one-shot. Really loved the system and came home and ran and wrote an entire campaign in Savage Worlds. And it was a very quick read. The rules were really easy to learn and I really enjoyed it. And the group really enjoyed it when we first started playing. They're burned out on it now, but it's my favorite system. And it's one of those systems that you can put any facade on. And so if you wanted to run Spanish Pirates of the Spanish Main, or you wanted to run a noir game or a pulp game or a space game or whatever, like it fits all of those different things. And Pirates of the Spanish Main has a module, which means you wouldn't have to necessarily write your whole first game. You could take a lot of your ideas from something that's already written and then like not necessarily run it word for word out of the module. You could change things to fit what your players decide to do, but it's a good jumping off point if that's the kind of game you're trying to run.
Modules can be really, really helpful. Like I've never run a module, just like picked it up and run it.
No.
But I have used modules a lot, especially early in my, like when I started GMing, finding a module that did a thing that I wanted to do, but didn't know how to achieve. Like, how do you make a castle interesting? Well, find a module that's about a castle, see what kind of things they try to do to make it interesting, and then reskin it to something that you're comfortable portraying, right? There might be things in there that are dumb and you just don't include those pieces. So when you're looking for how to actually run your game, like think of the type of game you want to play, then go look for modules that do that thing, read through them, see how they did it, and just take the pieces that you like.
Yeah.
For sure.
So Savage Worlds was mentioned. What was the other one that you mentioned? What is it? Monster of the Week?
Monster of the Week, yeah.
Which is PBTA, which is also what Dungeon World is. So it's the same rules.
You're going to be pretty familiar with how it works.
Okay.
And I believe we plan on playing both of those at PixelCon this year. So
yeah. So I mean, if you're not
in a rush,
if you don't start running before May, you'll get to see them.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
And I kind of want to run some OSR stuff, so maybe we'll get to try out Troika or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. We got pretty specific on Handor's use case, but I think we called that out ahead of time.
I mean, obviously we were doing this specifically for Handor, but I think that this can show people the thought process on how to pick for yourself, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Look at the players that you have, look at what's fun for you, think about the genre you want, and then start to narrow down all the systems that you've come across in your research, which ones fit those boxes.
And then bring it to Gigett and she'll tell you to play Savage Worlds.
Definitely she will tell you to play Savage Worlds.
I will always tell you to play Savage Worlds, but that's because I love Savage Worlds.
If you want, like, if you're struggling to find a system and you'd like some advice, you can definitely email us pixelscandal@gmail.com, and we'll do our best to try to get through your struggle and kind of talk it out.
Absolutely. If you want a PBTA recommendation, email Kurt at pixelscandal.com. If you want a Savage World suggestion, email Gigett at pixelscandal.com.
If you want a fireside chat, then you should go check out our Patreon page.
That is true. But yeah, definitely email us if you are struggling with your own gaming stuff, and we can definitely help you out.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Does anybody have any final thoughts before we close up for tonight?
No, I think we covered it. I think your point about running what you're interested in, being superseding running what's going to make your players happy, really, really sold it. Because if you're not having fun, then like what's the point? Like, you're putting in a lot of effort, unless it's a GM-less game. Like, you're putting in more effort probably than most of the players. If it's a more traditional game, you should be having a good time.
Definitely. Yep.
Okay.
I completely
and I would temper your plans. We kind of mentioned this earlier. Don't plan for the 6-year-long campaign from the jump.
No.
Right.
Even if you want, like, I'm okay. I would suggest a one shot, but if you want a longer thing, try to plan it at like seasons, right? Like plan like 3 session arcs, where after the end of 3 sessions, if people aren't feeling it, you can cut bait and you still had an interesting story.
I've ran one-shots where the one-shot went really well, and then we were like, hey, let's run this again. And then I ran more games after the first one when the intention of the first one was a one-shot. Yeah. So that's okay, too. You write one game that feels like it starts and ends, and it's one adventure in one 4-hour sitting. And then at the end of that, you're like, that was really fun. We want to keep playing this. Cool. Now you write the campaign.
Yeah, you've already got buy-in, and you didn't waste a bunch of time up front.
Yeah, for sure. So great. Hey, Kurt, can you tell people where to find us on the internet?
Well, thanks, Gidget. I sure can. People can find us all over the internet. They can go to pixelscandal.com and find back episodes of the show. They can find links to our social media, like twitter.com/pixelscandal, where we're pretty active and we post a lot of updates and things. They can find links to our YouTube, where you can get back episodes of this show as well if you don't like going to people's websites. We don't have a vanity URL because we need subscribers, so go to YouTube and sub. It doesn't cost you anything, and we get a vanity URL, so thanks. Or if you want to support this show, you can find a link to our Patreon on our website as well. If you want to support the show but you can't monetarily support us, retweets, like just sharing with friends and talking about the show in your circles really helps us out a lot. Word of mouth is the primary way that people find stuff, and so you sharing the show is a huge boon for us, way more than like $1 a month. So
Right.
Yep.
For sure.
So yeah, that's it.
Well, thanks so much, guys, and we will see you next week for our next podcast.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.
They're off.
Bye.
See ya. Love you.